Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Just wait a few minutes here for people to start filing in, and then we'll get started. Great. A few more minutes and then we'll get started here. Got a couple more people coming in. All right, Cam, why don't you maybe take it away and I'm sure there'll be some others coming, but let's get started. Oh, Cam, you're on mute.
You bet. Sounds great. Thanks, Erica. Thanks also to our customers who have and partners who have graciously donated their time to be a part of what we're building here. So thank you very much for that. And especially thank you to our shareholders and investors who have taken the time out of their day and have committed also their resources into believing into building something bigger and being a part of Draganfly. We really appreciate it. In terms of agenda today, what we're going to do, I'm going to break from the agenda a little bit. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to have a bit of an interview and get some comments and thoughts and a discussion with President Ross, Dr. Ross from Alabama State University. And he's got a time pressure here. So we're going to jump into that right away. And then after that, I'm going to go in, I'm going to give a presentation, if it's okay with everybody, on our deck, and which will update everybody on the company, what we've been up to, some of the trends in the industry, and specifically, hopefully answer a bunch of the questions that we got that came in for us. And thanks everybody for those. Then what we'll do is I'm going to have the opportunity to speak with Bill from Knightscope and really get a chance to understand what they're doing there and what they've allowed us to do in terms of being their customer and being of service to them. And then we're going to finish that off with a discussion with Wayne Williams, who's the CEO of Coldchain Technology Services, to talk about our vaccine drone delivery initiative that we're building out for him and his company. Q&A is if there is time, we will get to Q&A as much as possible, but by all means, please put your Q&A in the chat or email Erica or whoever else, and we'll make sure that we get back to every single person if we're not able to address those questions. We do have a super large crowd on it with us today, so we want to be respectful to get all the information out. And so if we don't get to you, we apologize, and we will certainly do that as quickly as possible. So on that note, and without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Quentin Ross, the president of Alabama State University. Dr. Ross, I'd love to, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of your background and a little bit of the history on Alabama State University. And I think what's really important to note here is your leadership in the entire health security and health safety space, and the leadership that ASU has demonstrated quantitatively in terms of low to no COVID cases, the protocols you've put in place, the national leadership position that you now have, and the example that Alabama State University is in this regard, the incredible job you've done, and of course the honor we have of being a part of that. Do you mind just giving us some of the background on you and Alabama?
Well, listen, thank you, Cameron, and let me say good afternoon to everyone. It's an honor to be here with you as a customer, but also a partner with Draganfly. I'm Dr. Quentin Ross, as he stated. I'm the 15th president of Alabama State University, which is located in Montgomery, Alabama. It's a 154-year-old institution that was founded by 9 slaves with $500. We are here in Montgomery, which is the capital city of Alabama, which is actually the cradle of the civil rights movement, as well as the Confederacy. So the historic value to this institution is enormous. I've been president here for the last 3 years, going on 4 years. I'm a graduate of Alabama State University. I'm a 25-year veteran of from public K through 12 education to higher education. I served 15 years in the Alabama State Senate. Before becoming president, I served as the Alabama State Senate minority leader. 10 months ago, probably one of the most difficult decisions that I had to make as president was to send our most precious resource home because of COVID and how it was capturing and taking over the United States. As we tried to grapple with the effects of COVID, one of the things that my leadership team and I were faced with was deciding how we would move forward. And I gave my leadership team the proposition that we could either sink or we could swim. And so all of them decided that we would swim, and that drew us to the conclusion that we were destined and determined to reopen our campus. And so with that in mind, we set out with a strategy to try to find a way to keep our campus safe, to mitigate the risk of COVID. And through that, we created protocols that would cause all of our employees, all of our students, our faculty, staff, everyone to be tested to give us a baseline. And working with all of our partners, and Coldchain happens to be one of them, Alabama State University happens to have every test that's available. We have rapid testing that's on this campus, as well as the PCR test because of our partnership with the State Department of Health. As we began to continue to fine tune our protocols, we met a lot of wonderful people along the way, and that's where Cameron, Shell, and Draganfly, they come in, because we were looking for all of the necessary technologies to help complement our protocols to ensure the safety of our students. And so with that, we were able to acquire the smart vital statistic and the screening machines here on our campus in terms of social distancing. And those have been wonderful complements to what we're doing here at Alabama State University, and actually as being one of the first universities to use this technology. I have really become the envy of my colleagues in the state of Alabama and across the country, but I tell them that they too can do the same thing if they really venture out to use the various technologies. And so that complemented those temperature screening machines, which our students enjoy, by the way, because they're all over our campus and our student center and our stadiums, as well as when you use the social distancing, they really enjoy being able to know whether they're close to one another or whether they're standing far away. So those have been added additions to our protocol here at Alabama State University. But more importantly, when we ventured off into the drone technology to spray our campuses with the VeriGuard spray, all of our facilities, our athletic facilities, and we returned back to basketball. And I can't tell you the comfort that not only myself, but our patrons and our students and faculty feel going into our Acadome, our arena where we play basketball, knowing that it's been sprayed with drone technology, using the very latest and the greatest protection against COVID-19. And so those are the type of things that have helped our campus keep a positivity. We're less than 2% on our campus. We were less than 2% when we opened last fall. And even today, as we've reopened, we're still less than 1%. And so we run a major testing operation here on campus. We employ all of the technology that we have through Draganfly. And not only has Draganfly ensured the spraying of our athletic facilities, even our major testing center, where testing has been taking place for the last 10 months, they also sanitize and spray that area as well. But more importantly, it sends a message to our state health department that we are serious about the safety of our students, faculty, and staff, and the community at large, because we also test not only our campus, but the community at large. And just as of Monday, because of all the protocols that we have in place, because of the precautions that we've taken with the smart vital statistic stations, as well as the social distancing and the drone spraying, we became a vaccination site for the Alabama Department of Health. And so it's because we have partnered with so many great individuals such as Cameron and Wayne, that we have shown and are the example of how you safely open schools. And that is what this nation needs. That's what the country needs. And so I think that all of you have invested and done the right thing to be on the cutting edge of what can help move this country forward. And before I end, Cameron, I'd just like to say this. When I opened school back last year for the fall semester, we had Faculty and Staff Institute virtually, some 600 of my faculty and staff. But I told them, in time of crisis, you have innovation and invention. And I can truly say that what Draganfly has done, what Wayne has done with Coldchain, all of those things are truly innovative and have allowed us to safely open our schools. And we are just so excited to be a part of this team. And I just want to thank all of your investors and thank all of you for what you have done in envisioning how we can really try to return to some sense of normalcy. And I'm truly humbled and proud to not only be a customer, but really, I don't see it as being a customer. We're a partner because we're making the difference in the lives of our students, our faculty, our staff, and the community at large here in Alabama. Thank you so much.
Dr. Ross, thank you. The relationship that our teams, and quite frankly, you and I personally, but our teams have grown to have together because of your vision. We didn't have an installation before you, and you saw the value, but you just didn't see the value of the technology. You quickly integrated it into the entire system of your social distancing and your mask wearing and your testing, and you put something in place where you have a school in the middle of what is a hotbed, right? A super spreader hotbed, and you've got less than 1%. And the data you allow us to provide you, what we have learned from you, it's truly, frankly, Draganfly is all about providing solutions, but we can't provide solutions if we don't have the right partners to do it with. And you've allowed us to do that. I just congratulations on what you've done for ASU and for the students and for the community there. And now the fact that you guys are actually, distributing the vaccine as well is just amazing. So
we're truly blessed. We're truly blessed and blessed to have this partnership. And I'm just thankful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. There's a ton of questions I could have for you, but I know you've got to run. Just for everybody's edification, Dr. Ross has been very active in implementing the Draganfly Vital Intelligence technology, which are our kiosks, which measure, of course, not just temperature, but just simply from a camera can measure heart rate, respiratory rate, SpO2, blood pressure, all the leading and the key indicators to see if there's an infectious disease present. And it doesn't identify people individually, but we provide daily stats back to Dr. Ross's team. He can see ahead of the curve, how his population is doing. It can give people early warning to say, hey, you need to get over to testing. He's got an incredible testing protocol in place. And then most recently, with the advent of our Varigard spray formula, which is the only 24-hour sequestration, totally organic, FDA tested kill efficacy and sequestration spray out there, they've reopened basketball again. Unbelievable job, and thank you for letting us be a part of it.
Well, thank you, Cameron. And we were so excited. I don't know if anybody got a chance to watch Sports Center the other day, but Alabama State was on there with a great win against Southern University. So
amazing buzzer beater. Awesome.
If you hadn't seen the buzzer beater, go out and see it. But we're grateful, and thank you so much.
Incredible. Dr. Ross, I know you've got to run. Feel free to stay as long as you like. Thank you again for your support. I know we got a lot more work coming up. And
thank you, and God bless you all. Take care.
Hornets.
All right, go Hornets. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks so much, everybody, for that. Hopefully that's an example. It has been an example of the last 20 years of work that we've done and the type of customers that we bring on. And I think what's really important to note and a differentiator about Draganfly in this unbelievably burgeoning market in the drone space is that we have 20+ years experience, and we know how not just to innovate and not just how to commercialize something, but how to win passionate customers. And at the end of the day, that's what builds a scalable business. What I'd like to do now, with everybody's permission, is I'd like to do a share screen and actually run through our updated deck. I'll try to keep this to about 20 minutes at most, and then we'll jump into a couple of more customer interviews. There'll be a bit more Q&A based, as I know that Dr. Ross had to run. So thanks very much. As mentioned, Draganfly is a 20+ year old drone solution provider. And, we have been at this game for a long time. And so we have a very good understanding of what the customer wants. And what the customer wants is not a drone. What the customer wants is a solution. And the solution today comes in two forms. They either want something delivered, right? They want a package, they want an end result, or they want data, right? And they want the analysis around those data. So what I'll hopefully run through and demonstrate to you today is that we are really blessed to be able to develop fantastic technology, but more importantly, we're able to win and keep incredible customers. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide in terms of leadership. I'm going to come back to it at the end, if that's okay, in the interest of time. But as a 20-year-old company, here's basically how we break down in terms of our org structure on our revenue and our customer stream, which is our most important asset. First of all, we have four broad revenue streams, and the first revenue stream is contract engineering. And contract engineering, typically this is to military contractors, where we provide highly specialized engineering services to them. An example of a great customer in this regard would be AeroVironment, AVAV, multi-billion-dollar military contractor, incredibly well run company, very high standards. And these military contractors, typically a military contractor who delivers ordnance, missiles or guidance, or blows things up, they have a very different cost structure, very different regulatory structure. And so and because we don't do ordnance per se, or things that blow other things up, we have a very different cost structure that allows us to do highly complex and often classified work for these organizations. We've done everything from worked on systems that have delivered blood on the battlefield, autonomous drones delivering blood on the battlefield, to autonomous drones that fly at hundreds of miles an hour, shoot Kevlar nets with, airbag explosives, a system that we designed, and capture other drones, or tethered drones that go up on embassies, just really, really cool work. Now, this isn't a high volume piece of work for us, but it's a high margin piece of work. But more importantly, what it does is it allows us to attract great engineering talent, because the projects that we get to work on are absolutely fascinating. It also continues to develop our internal skills, so that as we transfer those skills into the commercial market, we have an engineering bench and an AI bench that really, in some cases, is completely and totally second to none, because we get to work on these projects. So this is a very important piece of our business from lots of aspects, not just financially, but culturally as well. And so we are seeing this business grow. Through COVID, this piece of business actually slowed down quite a bit, but there's a backlog that's coming hard, and we are seeing this much more in the private sector as well. It was also very important, which I'll talk about in a little bit, sustaining us through the very lean years of the Chinese manufacturers coming in with very inexpensive drones. And it's one of the reasons that, practically and almost literally every single drone manufacturer in North America had gone bankrupt, except for, but a very few handfuls. So the second thing that we have is our own product development and sales. And so that's going to include things like the Commander line, which is a full line of quadcopters that we put out there. This is a professional line. We don't do consumer products. These range anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000. Public safety is our most relevant customer in this regard. But we also have other product lines as well. We have fixed wings, we have robots. I'll talk a little bit about that later. And we also have our Quantix line. So the Quantix line is a joint sales line with AeroVironment. So AeroVironment only has one commercial product, and that commercial product is a joint sales venture with us in this Quantix drone. This is a drone. It's about a $7,500 unit, so incredibly well priced. It takes off like a SpaceX rocket. It flies like an airplane, and then it lands like a SpaceX rocket. It's a VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing device. But the great thing about this is you don't pilot it. All right, it's great. It's geared at the agricultural market. And so you've got farmers typically who are using these with incredible sensors that we have on them, but they just simply use their iPhone to program, right? Where this thing needs to fly, it pops up, it flies the acreage, it lands back down, they pack it up, they put it away. All their data is already streamed into usually their agricultural management package, and they don't have to become pilots, right? And that's, again, we're lucky to be a part of people who think through a total solution. The farming area, they can't afford to go out. Typically, there's not enough margin to bring crews in to fly your fields for you, but you also don't have time, to learn to be, unless you're a hobbyist, to be a pilot, to figure, you just need press a button, this thing flies, it works. So we're really excited about this product line. It's done well for us in last year, but in this next coming year, we really see as ag tech explodes, really becoming a dominant player in that. But like everything that we go into, we're not interested in selling a device. We're interested in dominating a complete market and providing a total solution. Listen, we also do other products because of our software development capabilities and our AI bench. And so we're able to do things like be able to take vital signs, which we talked about with Dr. Ross, and I'll bring that up a bit more later. We have a full flight services division that's headed by Justin, who's on the call. You'll hear from him later today. And whether that's wind turbine inspection, whether it's pipeline inspection, whether it's industrial, whether it's work that we've done for the U.S. Army Corps, whether it's spraying missions, agricultural missions, LiDAR, lots and lots of LiDAR missions. This is an area that's growing. And the reason that we get a lot of flight service businesses is actually because of this fourth category. The information that comes from a data or from a drone these days is the most critical asset that a company has. It's their data. So when they have flight services flown, what we're seeing is a flight to quality. Going out and hiring Jay and Johnny's flight service is not the trend. What these large, and because we deal with large companies, what they're looking for is somebody that can provide them a full, what they call data chain security for those flight services. So whether it's, some of them insist that right from the point that it has to be a Draganfly drone, right through to the point where we fly the missions, the bonding, the insurance, the background checks, the clearances, the classifications of the pilots, right through to the depositing of the data, which often is on our servers, which we then analyze and provide for them. This is critical for these types of organizations. And unless you've got that full spectrum, you're not going to win that business, because this is the most important information that these companies are having. So that leads me to the whole data services. So an example of this would be, Justin and one of his teams will be out flying and doing an inventory count for a forestry company. I mean, it's down to millimeter type of detail. The LiDAR that they'll fly, that's our own LiDAR, actually can see through the trees the complete and total detailed topographic of the mountain or the range that it's on. And so where they can see where they need to cut in their roads or plan for water runoff or whatever the case is. Again, this is strategic data, and it's terabytes of data. Forestry company generally isn't set up to handle, manage, analyze terabytes of data. So what we often see now is our clients are coming to us and saying, hey, we need the management of this and we need the analysis around it. And that's really, so we like to say we're actually a data company that builds drones and does AI. Because at the end of the day, what people want is they want that package delivered, they want all the data that came along with it, or they want the data from what we do. We deal in all the verticals, the public safety, military, agriculture, mining, energy, and the one that we are quite unique in that isn't really populated by other drone companies is the health and the health security vertical. And again, we're in all these verticals. We've had a very strong public safety history, but we've been in these verticals and probably have more customers in these verticals than 90% of the drone companies that are focused just on that vertical, because we've been at this so long. We're a very innovative company. It's part of our culture, and it's part of our culture going forward. We commercialized the first, drone or quadcopter in 1999. We put the first video on a quadcopter, the first stabilized video, the first thermal camera, like I can go on and bore everybody with the first. I think most importantly to us at Draganfly is that Draganfly had the drone that was credited with saving the first human life. And that was used, search and rescue team used a thermal camera to find an accident victim in a snowstorm who was unconscious and a head injury. And today that drone sits in the Smithsonian. It is just, it's one of the cornerstones of our business and how we conduct ourselves culturally. It was, and it really won us not just a lot of business, but it also was absolutely critical for us in terms of how we hire people, the nature of our business, and so on. Now, as a, sorry, I got my phone going off here. As another point of that that's really important, that innovation that led to that type of cultural response from us is that over the years, we've got a really strong patent portfolio. And so it's not a huge portfolio. It's currently it's 19 strong, about 40 patent pending. We actually are very careful about what we put into our IP pipeline because a lot of times it's our secret sauce. That said, those 19 patents are really important to us and they win us a lot of business. Most recently, we just announced our 19th patent, which is a really innovative cargo drone that's a VTOL, so vertical takeoff, horizontal flight drone that does load balancing. And the patent behind it, that patent has been in work for a long time. There's a lot of drones out there actually infringe on it today. But the way it load balances is incredibly important, especially as we'll talk about later for the vaccine delivery that we're doing when you've got sensitive cargoes, that everything from vibration and balance and stuff is incredibly important. So again, we're thinking through the long-term solution on this. But to give you a sense of the prolific nature of the patents that we've done in the past, this patent right down here is for removable blades. And so if you're in the drone business and you have removable blades on your patent, on your drone, you're probably infringing on that patent. Now, about 2 years ago, we sold that patent and licensed it back, so we still have exclusive use of it. But we sold that patent to a car manufacturer who has some robotics, who then ended up suing a very large drone company for it and won a $190 million lawsuit. And that large drone company was ordered by the U.S. Department of Commerce to take their particular drones, their best-selling drones, off the shelves. And I mean, they've gone into appeals and they're battling it out and all that type of stuff. That's not our business model. We were paid a nice price a few years ago for that patent. That helped us fuel more innovation, and we'll continue to go down that model. What these we're not patent trolls. That's not the business. It's distracting. That's not about customers. It's not about creating something bigger than ourselves. But what the patents do for us is that it wins us business with those marquee customers. Those namesake customers out there, Fortune 500 companies that deal with us, when they're looking at installing or implementing new solutions using drones, they're not going to go get it built or done by somebody else or employ somebody else's drone if they know that they infringe on patents. Their liabilities are just too big for that from all kinds of corporate standpoint. So this allows us to hit well above our weight class as in this regard. Until this point, now we're growing and maturing into that weight class where we've got more and more of those companies coming to us, just because we've got the track record of delivering innovative products and satisfying customers. Now, there's been a huge paradigm shift since we've been in the industry. And obviously, I think for most people, they'll understand that it's not about the hardware anymore. It is all about the data. And so a number of, for 15 years ago, we were moving away from being a hardware manufacturer exclusively and moving into having a really strong engineering and AI and software development bench. That said, the hardware is still incredibly important in this industry because a drone can collect information better likely than any other device, and varied information and detailed information than any other device known, especially a mobile device, even more so than your mobile phone. The security and the performance around that drone is very important. And because we work with so many customers that have those data securities, that manufacturing piece is incredible. The manufacturing piece is also really important because it allows us to understand where most of our AI work lives is in our sensors. So we're able to develop and work with sensors that aren't readily available on the market or that aren't available to our customers' competitors. Our goal when we deal with a customer is to give them a competitive advantage. And when we do that, and we're developing sensors and work and AI and total solutions for them, we are giving, and that just locks them in as a fan of ours. It locks them in as a customer to ensure that we've got a 20-year relationship with them. One of our longest relationships is with the University of South Australia. They bought their first drones from us in 1999. Well, they constitute some of our AI bench, and it's because we've had that customer relationship with them on an ongoing basis again and again and again. So today, it's all about the data. And because it's become all about the data, what we've seen in the Five Eyes nations, which are I'll call it the early typical NATO nations, is that a national security issue. So we are a North American built drone. We have operations in the United States and Canada. We are already manufacture for US military contractors. We've got our security clearances. Our manufacturing facilities are all segmented properly. We meet all the guidelines. And so we're a built-in USA product. I live in the USA. A lot of our team lives in the USA. My kids are American. Like this, we are our board is American. We are extremely passionate about this particular issue and the fact that the drone industry, or the data industry, as I like to put it, needs to be managed and protected on a national security level. And so we've seen executive order after executive order at all different levels of government now coming down and saying, look, they recognize that this is an issue. And so as such, there's a more than huge push now to move everything, whatever side of the aisle you sit on. The push is to protect this supply chain. And it's universal across the Five Eyes. So the work that we're doing in other NATO-based countries completely applies to this. So we've got a really right market. Now, the challenge is, other than military contractors, pretty much all of the manufacturers, the commercial manufacturers, have gone out of business. So whether you were GoPro doing drones, whether you're Airware, who was John Chambers was the chairman, and it was backed by Andreessen Horowitz, whether you're Lilly, whether you're 3DR, whether you're whatever, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars were invested in those companies, who were all going to go out there and manufacture drones and be the big drone manufacturer as opposed to the solution provider. And they all got killed. They're all out of business. They're all done, right? I think 3R's got restructured, but everybody else went out of business. I can say with confidence, quantitatively, that every single one of those companies at one point tried to buy Draganfly. And for a number of reasons, we ended up not. I mean, I can't believe we told Airware, John Chambers, the chairman, that we weren't going to sell to him. I mean, a guy like, Silicon Valley, all of it. But the strategy was all about, the value in the hardware and the software. And it's not. The value is always in the data and the solution that you provide for the customer. So we've been fortunate enough to be able to rely on our contract engineering to see us through those really lean times where everybody was buying a $1,500 drone. And we were very fortunate to recognize that that's just the consumer market. And that's not a sustainable race to the bottom market for anybody, including the DJIs of the world, of which I'm a fan of, by the way. But the sustainability in this market, and when you listen to people like Kathy Woods, from ARC, who's just on a complete tear right now, ripping up the market. And she talks about, the big disruptive platforms, and autonomy being one of them. And inside autonomy, one of the biggest themes is drones. Yet, what they clearly realize is it's not about that hardware, but it's about the platform. And what Draganfly has created here, but somewhat by accident and somewhat just by really hard work, is a platform. And that's what our customers are recognizing. So customers come to us for the total solution. Our products and services, we talked a little bit about this over here. I think one thing that we're a little less known for is the fact that we do ground robots. I mean, our Dragon Scout, is a $30,000 robot that can climb stairs. Your average robot that can climb stairs, especially if it's not on a track, is about $500,000. But this particular robot, it can stand up, it can, telescope in, it can look in windows, it can be controlled from our flight controllers that can control all of these units all at once. It can lay down, it can go underneath cars, it can go across water. A really interesting patent on this is these wheels here that you see actually fold down and turn into grappling hooks. So this thing can go up more stairs. It can grapple up walls. And that innovation is being introduced in many other products that we're building for some fantastic clients out there right now. And again, this is the type of work, and this is one of our patents, but that's again, because we have so much customer experience and we build for customers all the time, we're able to put these products into practice. This Draganfly Tango here is a unit that can stay up for 14 hours. It flies just about stall speed. When you see that thing in the air, you think it's just sitting still. So it accomplishes what a rotary, a quadcopter accomplishes, but can only do for 20 or 30 minutes for 14 hours. Again, amazing for surveillance, amazing for long-term missions for doing pipeline inspections and things like that. So the last category over here, which I'm going to spend a little bit of time on, is an amazing growth category for us this year that we stumbled upon. And that's in the telehealth area. So the story behind this product is about a year ago, actually not even quite a year, actually it is a year ago now. We had one of our public safety clients in Connecticut approached us and said, we would like to have the ability to measure social distancing. So when we put a drone up in the air, we want to be able to see how well our public policy and public awareness campaigns are working, and if people are actually separating. And we also need to be able to tell if they're already a couple or a family, because that doesn't count necessarily into our calculations of if a super spreader event might be happening, because they're already in a household. And we want to be able to understand where we need to put more resources or things like that. And oh, by the way, can you also detect if they're wearing masks? So we built that software, our AI bench built that software, and we deployed it. And we didn't deploy it initially on Draganfly drones. We actually deployed it onto cameras that were on DJI drones, and which are now being swapped out because most public safety can't use DJI now. But that said, so we did that, and we got a terrible amount of press out of it, and not great press, because there was a Big Brother potential backlash. The reality is it doesn't collect individual data, and it provides unbelievably, for the first time, data in front of the curve. So up until that point, all the data on COVID and the pandemic was basically how many people are in hospital beds. And the challenge with that is that you're making policy decisions after the fact that are based on, wild policy decisions based on bed counts. As opposed to, how well is public policy working? Are we staying apart? How many people, are actually adhering to policy? Are we spending too much time together? And so it gave them great insight. Now, since that time, we've deployed this throughout several departments and agencies throughout the world, and it's a very, very effective tool. But when we were leaving one of the last deployment meetings, one of the project leaders on the other side of the equation said, what would really be, and he was kidding. He said, what would really be cool is, if you could detect COVID-19. And when we got back to the hotel that night, it was interesting. Everybody kind of got excited, and nobody expected that we were going to detect COVID-19. But there were some ideas being thrown around about how we could detect infectious conditions. And so to fast forward that, 10 months later, we commercially deployed a product that simply from a camera can detect your heart rate, your respiratory rate, your blood pressure, your SpO2, your blood oxygen level, and even your BMI, your body mass index. And we've now deployed that not just on a drone, but which has limited practicality anyway, but we've deployed that onto kiosks, we've deployed that onto laptops, we've deployed it onto security camera systems, we've even deployed it now onto your smartphone. And the advantage of, and the big implication here is now simply using a smartphone, you can get your heart rate, your respiratory rate. And we've put this into, as Dr. Ross indicated, we've successfully deployed it into now multiple universities. We've deployed it into prison systems. We've deployed it into government buildings. And what this allows is people not to have to test all day long, or even if they do decide to test, which is an expensive thing to do, it gives them a screening mechanism to see how the population is. It can also be used as an entrance system, which is quite common, because so literally in a matter of seconds, you can get those indications and see if you do have an elevated heart rate and such. Now, SpO2, as we saw when President Trump contracted COVID, is one of the key indicators, and this system does detect and measure your SpO2. A simple temperature measurement, which a lot of people do, is not necessarily effective. Certainly fever is a good indicator of an infectious condition, but given the amount of people that have either other medications or Tylenol or such in their body, because we have such an infectious, such a society that's so full of inflammation, that half the time it's not going to necessarily pick up a reading. Also, temperature tends, about 30% of the time, is asymptomatic. So while it's an important measure, it can't be a measure that's relied upon unless you get these other indicators. And we're the only ones that are providing these indicators in this manner. It's third-party, peer-reviewed research, clinically trialed, tested. So again, other people that are now trying to do this and coming up with this a novel. I mean, this has actually been years in the making, and actually through our partnership and one of our customers, the Southern Alberta, or excuse me, the Australian University, the University of South Australia, excuse me, that's who provided us a bunch of this initial research into this. The implications of this are far beyond COVID. The implications of this are into telehealth. We're now deploying it into telehealth apps, onto telehealth systems. It can literally sit here on our laptop right now. If you're in a doctor's appointment on your laptop, and up in the top left screen, we've got all your vital signs showing up. This is hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts that would be flowing into Draganfly. Most importantly, these are our clients. So if we look at the startup drone space out there that might be building and deploying a novel drone that can drop a parachute into a remote country, and those are really important missions, and the amazing valuations that those company or organizations are getting. But what revenue are they turning? What customers are they satisfying? What are they pleasing? They have noble cause, and I think they should be supported. But when you compare those to the customer base that we've got here, or you can look at certainly DJI's got this customer base, but DJI sells them hardware. If we look at any other comp of a drone player in the space, especially a public one, they can't show this type of list. So I've seen recent announcements where some drone competitors, if you will, are saying, hey, they're gonna decide to put AI into their drone system. Like, if you haven't been doing AI in your drones for the last 5 to 7 years, you're not going to catch up. It's AI in a drone is very different than AI on a phone and analyzing data. You've got an incredible ecosystem of unlimited variables that you're dealing with. Sensors, and are you close enough, and wind, it's just crazy what you have to calculate for. So we feel really confident in our ability to go forward and be able to continue to satisfy these types of customers. I don't think there's one customer on here that's not a repeat customer, at least in some, or if not all, of the services that we provide them. Now, all that being said, we're a small company. And that's more because the industry, in terms of the true commercial industry, has been very small. There's been very big numbers thrown around, but I can tell you from working and selling in customers every day for the last few years that the customer adoption is now taking off. So we'll finish off this year with about $5 million in revenue, and that doesn't include our licensing revenue, because that licensing revenue is calculated differently. So, but from pure operational revenue, we've seen 50% Q over Q growth and 200% year over year growth. And I see no end in sight for that continued type of percentage growth. Now, it's easy to go from 200% growth if you started off at $1 million and you go to 2 and 4, but from 5 and that type of same growth, we still see that same pattern in front of us. The pipeline is incredibly strong, and we're hiring as fast as we can to meet it. We're very picky in our hiring process, so it's a little bit difficult at times, but we do have a good scaling program. We don't put out official guidance, but I'm comfortable saying that our run rate in 2023, organically, non-acquisition based, will be in that $50 million range. It's not a perfect prediction, but I would be very disappointed personally if that's where we were at, knowing what I know right now and the customers that we're working with and the budgets that are available. So I think that really comes down to the biggest difference of us in the market. We announce customers. We announce customers every week. We announce customers, and it's because we have customers, and it's because we're scaling. And I think that's really the thing that we need to, that hopefully as an investor I would look at. And do we have customers that aren't just customers, but they're partners and they're fans? And so on that note, what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk to some of those customers and partners and fans, and hopefully give you all a sense of the type of work that we do, and why we're lucky enough, and why we're incredibly committed to those customers, why we're lucky enough to work with them. So Bill.
Howdy.
You are a tough customer.
What do you mean?
You are a tough customer. We've had tough conversations. You guys are very particular. You're very, very experienced, and you're very disciplined, and what you're doing is incredible. So before we talk about some of the amazing tough conversations we've had, can you tell us about Knightscope, of which I just got to throw it to everybody I'm a huge fan of?
Thanks, Cam. Greetings, everyone from Silicon Valley. My name is Bill Lee. I'm the chairman and CEO of Knightscope. We have this slightly grandiose mission to see if we can make the United States of America the safest country in the world. All these crazy autonomous security robots behind me that we've built from scratch over the last 7 years are a unique combination of self-driving autonomous technology, robotics, and AI to give officers and guards really smart eyes and ears for them to do their jobs much more effectively. And I feel in some cases that we might be living a little bit of a parallel life with Cam's story. I think $80 billion has gone into self-driving technology and autonomous cars. There's 200 companies working on it. A collective revenue that they've garnered altogether is all about zero. And so we've built all this technology now actually operating across the US across 5 time zones, from Alaska to Rhode Island, and I've been in operation for over 1 million hours and garnered over $10 million of lifetime revenue. So we're glad to be here. And Cam, thanks for the opportunity, and good to see you.
It's always good to see you. Can you talk to us a bit about your engineering process? Maybe a little bit about your background and the emphasis on quality and actually delivering to your customers. Can you, you guys you're fascinating in that regard. And as a startup.
Are you saying we're paying the butt? Is that what you're saying?
Dude, you've caused me a lot of sleepless nights. So
by way of background, I'm an ex-Ford Motor Company executive. Spent 10 years in 12 different jobs, 4 different continents. If you go on my LinkedIn profile, when I was there, it looks like I was unemployable, but I kept sending around the world to fix big problems. And Ford was an awesome training ground. A car has 14,000 parts in it, takes $1.6 billion to get out the door, 400 prototypes, probably 400 teammates over a period of 4 years. And that instills a little bit of discipline. Even though we're here in Silicon Valley, I'm not a big fan of all the reckless capital around here. So we try to be a little bit more disciplined and careful. But at the same time, we're a startup. So we do hack maybe a little bit too much. But we also have to rely on our vendors and suppliers to deliver what we would want our clients to experience. And again, we're a startup, don't get me wrong. A lot of bad stuff happens every day, all the time, but it's how we handle it that's really important. And one of the big announcements we made recently with Cam was we added elevated body temperature to our machines. And that little process of trying to integrate that went not as smoothly as we all wanted, but it's done. And now I can walk into the office here and have one of our machines check our temperature, and then have that timestamp data logged, and then the Security Operations Center can view that remotely. And that's combined with the rest of the suite of technologies that we have on our machines that are used for security purposes.
And I know, Bill, we've got a great pipeline or roadmap in front of us in terms of other features and stuff that we're looking and hopeful to install with you. Can you, and two questions. One, I do want to talk about your revenue model, because it's a very fascinating, but what has your experience been with Draganfly, and why did, there's a lot of options out there. Why'd you kind of choose us?
To be super frank, which we pretty much always are, trying to get a massive engineering contractor to do a quick job can be very time consuming. And by the time we're done with the paperwork, the window would have closed. Working with pure startups that have not been around the block, as most folks know, 95% of startups fail. 80% never make it past their 3rd anniversary. So although I don't like startups working with startups in this particular case, both of us been around the block a little bit. We have enough of a lean team that we could get things done, relatively speaking, quickly. So that was one of the aspects. And then the other, just focus on legitimate technology that's, either the FDA said it's okay, or whatever governing authority, so that we're not, selling hocus pocus. So that was primarily the two things.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the revenue model that you have is basically, you guys don't sell these, you actually lease them out on a per hour basis.
Actually, it's not a lease. A lease implies it's you have a financial interest in that particular asset. We offer our technology on a machine as a service business model. So just put in context, an off-duty law enforcement officer armed is plus or minus $85 an hour. And unarmed guards, $15 to $35 an hour. Our machines go out at an effective price of $4 to $11 an hour, which gets the clients really excited. And then the rest of the 19,000 investors that are backed Knightscope to date get really excited, because the machines generate, let's say, $70,000 to $100,000 of revenue per machine per annum. So as an ex-auto executive, you'd expect me to make sure that it lasts for 5 years in service. So eventually, each machine should generate on the order of $500,000 of revenue, and targeting $250,000 of profit over that 5-year period. So said a different way, it's luxury automotive per unit economics, meaning you're buying a new Tesla every year, but the margins look more like a software as a service company.
And I think that's one of the things that really got us so excited with working with you as a partner, as a long-term partner. I mean, you graciously paid us for the integration work, but we now have a partnership where we have a reoccurring revenue stream with our technology embedded in your, and of course we're motivated now to always improve that technology, always add into it, add new vital signs, completely do whatever we can to give you a strategic differentiator. And we've got this ongoing reoccurring revenue stream as you're deploying thousands and thousands of these into the market. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity and the partnership, and your candid, blunt nature, and your incredible. You guys have a great engineering team. You really do. Yeah, our guys, our people rave about you.
Awesome. Well, if anybody wants to listening in or zooming in wants to learn a little bit more about Knightscope, just go to securityrobot.com. And the little blue button on the lower right, that is not a bot. That's me answering investor questions 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. So just be nice. If you got a question, I'm happy to answer.
That sounds good. Bill, you're of course welcome to stay as long as you like and such. But thank you so much.
I've got a few robots we need to get out the door.
Yeah, I bet you do. Okay, busy on.
All right, everybody, be safe out there. Take care.
Bill, it really is just an incredible guy to work with. His entire team are amazing. Really exciting, that deployment for us, because it takes that telehealth application that we have put on drones, right? And not just put them on, a laptop or a phone, but actually put them on a robot, which is another whole set of complexities that the AI has to deal with. And as we move forward and deploy, vital signs on those robots, they now become not just security guards, but actual first responders. So they're the first responder onto a particular site, and they can be taking the vital signs of somebody who might be having a mental condition or a heart attack, or just an entire new market has opened up for them. And that's just exactly what we want to do for our customers. Wayne, thank you for being so patient, and Justin. I wanted to save you guys for last because this is such a big project, and it's and such an honor to work with you, Wayne. Coldchain Technology Services, one of the leading vaccine distributors in the United States. Obviously, you had a busy year with COVID. I know how big a territory you have, and the areas that you're responsible for in terms of those vaccine distributions. I got to spend a couple of days with you last week, in some of our planning sessions, and I just don't appreciate the critical nature of the work you do, or the size of the complexity of the operation that you have. And it's an honor for you to have actually, identified the need for vaccine drone delivery. And as you guys build out your service, your selection of Draganfly, I know you were thorough in this, your selection of Draganfly to provide and build out the entire service end to end. And so I've asked Justin to join us as well, who's our project lead on this. Can you just tell us a little bit more about Coldchain Technology Services, Wayne?
Sure, and Cam, thank you very much, and everybody who's joined. Cam, you're being very gracious. For many years, my company, founded in 2007, with the whole premise of offering services to folks that basically like doctors' offices and clinics and things like that were housing vaccines and temperature-sensitive pharmaceuticals, but needed solutions how to protect it, because it's one thing under the manufacturing aspect of a product, shippers get it to them, and then when they get it into their facility, they usually have problems, and that's where we have loss of vaccines, loss of pharmaceuticals. So I really came up with a company that would look at designing and building solutions around that to protect those products. And started off basically with trying to do monitoring platforms, which we still offer, but we found where we were starting to slide much more into the space of distribution. Because a lot of organizations will get a product from a manufacturer, but then they have to downstream distribute it. And so we really started working with industry out there to come up with packaging solutions that would safeguard their material. And I think where we really broke through is when we had one of our customers come to us who was supporting the State Department in the Middle East. Basically, after the military left out of Iraq and Afghanistan, for the most part, they still had 30,000 civilians that needed, medical services and preparedness. for their well-being, and product was being moved over, and most of it was getting compromised during the process, and sometimes it could take up to 3 weeks just with the normal capabilities. So we stepped in. We ship daily to those areas. So using some of the technology that we pulled together, and the way we proved that we could keep their product at the right temperature is we set up a Zoom call similar to this. We told them we would ship a sample of how we do it. They opened it up on the Zoom, and there was ice cream in there. So and it took 7 days to get to them. It was still frozen. So they basically said, okay, you know how to manage the temperature. So that's where the companies really come from. And obviously we're in the emergency response and preparedness sector big time. So, you know, COVID has had its challenges, and we've come to the call. And then the piece that you and I are definitely, you know, at the start of, but I feel really, really good with, is we still have clients that really push the challenges towards us. And one of those is the distribution of vaccines and or time temperature sensitive pharmaceuticals to very remote or austere locations. And right now, one of our customers, it costs them millions of dollars actually to maintain the healthcare of their workforce, because they're actually having to bring them off of site back to the mainland, if you will, to just do standard booster shots, diabetes checks, things like that. Well, we started really looking at that and said, what if we could get the materials out to you? Why not train some of your personnel as like EMS folks, where you could administer a vaccine, where you could take blood draws, do testing. And they really liked the idea. And when we first pitched that, it was using a helicopter to bring that material back. And then with our growth and our relationship, I'm like, boy, why can't a drone do that? And well, you know the history there since. We provided you with our approved shippers, and you guys proved to me without a shadow of a doubt that you have no problem packing it, taking it all the ways out there, 50 kilometers or more, and dropping it off, and then bringing back, you know, whether it's the urine samples, blood samples, everything like that. So very exciting. We can't wait to start to add that to the portfolio, because we've certainly figured out how to get it to a lot of austere locations. And I think this is the final one where we can literally take it into those areas where we can't put a person there, whether it's because it's a contaminated area, they need medicines in there. Let's get the drone in there. Let's not risk a helicopter pilot. Let's not risk an ambulance driver, EMS person, or like with some of our customers where they're out on oil rigs or in very remote areas where it just is not cost effective to use the traditional vehicle transport. So that's where we're going. You know, that's where we're at. The company has been very, very healthy. So we really appreciate the growth. You all heard Dr. Ross. We were able to partner with Draganfly and really help Alabama State University give a full solution, you know, testing, screening, training, immunizations now, and it's bringing all of these technologies and services together for a one-stop shop. And that's what our customers are looking for. They want to make one phone call and you manage all of the components, and it's been very, very successful. So Cam, kudos to your team and what you guys have brought to the table. And we are very excited for what this year entails for us.
Amazing. Wayne, I've learned so much from you in terms of the applications. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're responsible for all the distribution, and including all of Texas of the COVID vaccine.
We are the logistics arm for the state of Texas and the city of Chicago when it comes to the COVID response program. Yes.
And the other thing that I found fascinating is we were talking through a bunch of use cases and doing our work over the last number of months. But it's not just about a remote location. I think the word you used was a challenged location. Mm-hmm. So a location may become remote because of natural disaster, maybe because of a pandemic, maybe because of a traffic jam. Maybe, like, you really opened my eyes they're like, hey, we don't need to find a specific use case that, you know, they happen to be on a remote island, da, 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 da. Any location can come remote quickly. And with some of the technology that we're deploying with Vital Intelligence, you know, again, that the drone, it actually becomes the first responder on site. They're bringing medical equipment, they're bringing vaccines, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing the ability to do vital, you know, data back and vital signs and all the rest of it. And I think so the whole notion of what the service is that you envision, I think is years in advance of what other people are, you know, trying to, you know, deliver a package, you know, from Walmart or something. I mean, those are good applications, but the reality is this is immediate ROI right now that people are budgeting for, right? And we're deploying, and you know, we're looking for all the regulatory stuff for sure, but this is real use cases. This isn't like, oh, maybe we're going to deliver a, you know, a pizza someday or something, which again, I'm not taking away from.
No. And Cam, you're absolutely correct. I mean, over the past several years, the federal government has invested millions, if not billions of dollars into across the, you know, all of the U.S. in the project areas, so they could have decontamination units, shelter units, and capabilities where they would have to go into an area that unfortunately is contaminated, whether it's a virus that we're dealing with or it's something worse, you know, it's a biologic. Problem is we still have human life on the other side of that barrier. And so what we're doing, today's model is we put other human life at risk to go through that barrier into an area to provide healthcare and capabilities to keep that population base alive as well. So the idea is that what if we can get the materials and things beyond that barrier and not expose other human beings? That's where I think the drone and the Draganfly capability really sets the tone where they've got to look at it. You're absolutely right. Military already does stuff like that. They're able to put, whether it's first aid equipment or things like that, on the battlefield with not necessarily exposing another soldier to it. So why can't we, and that's where I pose the question to you, why can't we do that for the civilian side of the house? Yeah. Ebola was a perfect example. When Ebola hit us here a few years ago, you know, we were inadvertently contaminating or exposing our healthcare providers because they couldn't PPE properly and stuff like that. But what if I could get the medicine to the individuals that are on that contaminated island, if you will, not expose the other folks that have to travel into it?
Yeah, and this is, I mean, that and a dozen other use cases are just, you know, the practicality is now, the ROI is there. Justin, you know, you took the again, in the spirit of coming up with a total solution, it wasn't about, okay, here's a drone, maybe it can work. It's like, hey, you know, the network operations and the logistics and the payload, Justin. So you very quickly with your team, so just so everybody knows, Justin's the president of CanDrone, our Draganfly subsidiary. He also sits on our board. Unbelievable partner to have. This you can integrate anything, fly anything, as and evidenced by the simple fact that you know, Wayne's IP in terms of the boxes, the temperature sensitive boxes that are completely designed to deliver these temperature sensitive therapeutics or vaccines, you've already designed and built into a payload, tested. Can you tell us a bit about that process and why you guys able to successfully do that?
Sure, thanks, Cam. So you talked about our services branch before, and the vaccine project presents a very unique challenge, but it requires a similar approach where we utilize a variety of our solutions. So the hardware, the sense and avoid technology, and some of our software. Wayne and his team at Coldchain are known for their high quality distribution methods, and we certainly thank them for their trust in us. Draganfly has around 22 years of industry experience, and I think that is key to our ability to rapidly prototype projects and navigate regulatory environments. We were able to get to testing the prototype in a matter of weeks by working through the holidays, and I'm super, super proud of our team for their dedication.
Yeah, it was incredible.
We've designed the cargo payload with temperature control, vibration dampening, and temperature monitoring. The payload is modular, flexible, and can go on either small platforms or larger platforms. And this allows us to do long range or short range missions. We're highly confident in our approach and very grateful for the opportunity to work with Wayne.
Yeah, and I got to throw it out to your team. I mean, you know, the other area that we haven't talked about is just the flight services and how that's just exploding right now, especially with our proprietary VeriGuard product that does the sequestration and such. And you and your team, Justin, I know you've got pilots in the U.S., but I know you have to cross the border, and the commitment from your your family and some of your lead pilots to be doing that as you're flying all over North America right now is deeply appreciated. And Wayne is that same type of person. I mean, he's working over Christmas because getting those vaccines out is critical. So. What I thought I'd do is, I know we're 5 minutes over time. I'm just going to go to the first two top questions that popped up, and then we'll wrap it up. But I did want to ensure to everybody, and I'm sorry that we don't have a live Q&A, but I did want to say to everybody that I think there's a way that all the questions have been captured. We will endeavor to get back to every person with every single question. All of this, quite frankly, can't be done without a committed shareholder base, and we're really lucky to have all of you as shareholders. We've had an incredible turnout on this call. A couple of things that I'm seeing some themes here, some people asking about our NASDAQ uplisting. We have filed our notice of intent. And so we're about a week away from our AIF filing with NASDAQ. All of our SEC filings, et cetera, are all, of course, up to date. And so, all continues to go well. We're kind of in that maybe 60-day range from a potential likely, hope I can say that. Lawyers might hurt me for that one, but uplisting onto NASDAQ. We have a fantastic banker that we brought on. It doesn't show yet in our past Q, the new Q's out, but our balance sheet is incredibly strong. And we are in a position right now where we just are ramping customers, and we get to pick and choose what customers we work with. It's a very luxurious position to be in. Two quick questions that are on here. It says, can you speak to whether Draganfly is investing in cybersecurity software to protect the data analytics that your firm's products are capturing for its customers? Absolutely. One of the most innovative products that I like that we have is a lot of departments and agencies have concerns flying foreign drones now. So we're actually able to isolate certain communication aspects and data collection aspects of those drones, right, and lock them into our security system so that certain pieces of data cannot be transmitted or used on those drones. And so that's just one example of how we're iterating for our customers, because some of our customers have large fleets and they don't necessarily want to get rid of that whole fleet just yet. It's not at end of life yet. So we've been able to provide solutions for them that allow them to keep flying that fleet, but do it in a safe way that doesn't compromise their or national security. Really, in many respects, we're a security company, as much as a data company that happens to build drones. Another question here is, can you speak to whether, I just answered that one, sorry. Very exciting for your future with Ag Eagle, okay. Recent acquisition of MicaSense. Will Draganfly continue to use the MicaSense sensors? Okay, so first of all, I saw that today. I think that was a really brilliant move on Ag Eagle's part. MicaSense is a great company. I think that was a great acquisition on their part. We know MicaSense very well. In fact, Dragan, who's employee number 1 at Draganfly, and Gabriel, who originally came out of AeroVironment like a decade ago. The very first MicaSense sensors were flown on Draganflies, and an incredible amount of testing and integration work was all done on Draganfly. I'd say we probably have done more MicaSense integrations than anybody. And I mean true integrations, not a piece of Velcro strapped on a DJI drone. I mean, like integrated right into the control systems. So yeah, absolutely. We're big fans of MicaSense, and I think that was a great acquisition on AG's part, and we're happy to continue to listen. We provide the best solution for the customer, and I think we've got the best drone out there for MicaSense in particular, and a number of other sensors. We also build our own sensors. So, but MicaSense is a great company, great product, and congratulations to them. So, listen. On that note, it's 2:09. Thank you everybody for your time. We appreciate your support of Draganfly. Justin and Erica, Arian, everybody, thanks for all your work to get this together. In particular, our customers, Wayne, Dr. Ross, Bill, honestly, this is all about you. And we just so align with the values and the commitment that you have to your customers. Thanks for letting us work for you. And shareholders, thanks for letting us work for you. We'll talk to you soon.